Hello and welcome to the first race vlog. So this first one is going to be on PODIUM Underground, which took place on the 15th of September. I won a place in the race the week before in a competition online. Pretty short notice. I've had pretty bumpy year, so I think I've only really raced 1 or 2 races, and even at that I was either carrying an injury or probably shouldn't have raced at the time. So it was nice to actually have an opportunity to go into a race feeling quite fit for once. I've not really done anything short and sharp for the type of race that it was, but I thought may as well give it a go and see how we get on. So I had a conversation with my brother, who kindly volunteered to come down with me, which was great. So we got booked up on the flight from Edinburgh to London, and sorted some plans for during the day as well. We ended up doing the stadium tour of the London Stadium, went for food for a couple of hours, and then ended up in the cinema as well to get a bit of a relax before the event started. I think by that point we'd already racked up about 25,000 steps, so it probably wasn't the best prep for a race event, but it was a good opportunity, like I say, just to be part of something different. So let's jump in and have a quick look at the trip from leaving in the morning through to just before arriving at the race venue. So we had the 6:20 AM flight from Edinburgh, which meant the 4:25 taxi pickup, which was a hard one to take. But we made our way to the airport, got ourselves on the EasyJet flight, and it was a beautiful day, so we got some nice views on the way down to London. Arrived in around about 8 AM and we were ready to get started. So when we arrived, the plan was to first go to the hotel, but unfortunately the shuttle bus didn't turn up, so we made our way down to Stratford and started to head along to the London Stadium for the stadium tour. As you can see, it was an amazing day, so we were trying to stay out the sun as much as possible, and we eventually got in and got a good look around the stadium, which was pretty amazing, to be honest. When you're used to smaller stadiums, it looked insane. They made their way to lunch, which was Nando's. Not very good race prep, but we then decided to chill in the cinema and get a rest. So PODIUM Underground is an event held by Podium and Sports Shoes. They use it to advertise the Nike Streak Fly, and on the evening they had the new colourway of the Streak Fly, Alpha Fly, Vaporfly and Zoom Fly, I think. So sort of white upper and a sort of bluey turquoise type sole. So that was quite cool. Lots of shoes on show at the event, and all the branding tied in with that as well, which was quite nice. The Go-Kart track itself was in Capital Karts. It was level -4 in one of the big buildings in Canary Wharf, and that was decked out in Sports Shoes and Podium advertising everywhere. Had a real nice feel to it when you walked in. It felt like you were at a proper event rather than just the odd thing here or there. Some nice big checks and the new colourway of the Nike shoes on display when you walk into the venue, and really cool branding throughout from Sports Shoes and Podium on the go-kart track. There's a cool milling area with DJ set up, and lots of people getting excited about the races starting, and an opportunity to warm up and get a good view of the go-kart track before taking part in the races. Let's go. So the format was 4 heats for the males. The top 7 finishers in each heat were to go through automatically, and then the fastest 6 runners up would then go through to the semi-finals. I was in heat 1 and I went in with very low expectation, just based on lack of racing and specific training for this type of event. But let's have a look at how it went. So on the start line for heat 1, I'm starting on the front left hand side wearing a light blue Lothian running club vest. First bend was fast and frantic until people kind of found their positions, and then we made our way through the first lap of the course, everyone getting a feel for what the turns and twists were like before starting to make any moves in the race. So as I said, it was the first 7 people that made it through from each heat. I had no kind of expectations as to where I would fall in that, so I tried to keep myself around about position 8 and 7 for the first 2 or 3 laps. I didn't want to let anyone past, thinking that I'd start to slip away, but I easily managed to hold that, which was quite good. Moving into the later laps, I managed to start moving up in the field a little bit. I think I ended up in around about 6th position, and started to put a bit of effort in at some of the corners to try and overtake some of the other runners, which was pretty tricky given that there was 90 twists and turns per race. and you had to time it very well to make sure you got in front of the person. So at this stage I started to move up and ended up in 4th position before the end of the final lap, and on the bell I just thought I need to hold this, make sure nobody can come flying behind me to pit me at the finish line. At this stage I was pretty knackered, so I couldn't really look over my shoulder, so coming through in 4th I decided to pick up the pace a little bit just to avoid that, and actually finished in 2nd place. So I finished 2nd in heat 1, and that time actually was the 2nd fastest heat of the whole event. Stupidly, I'm quite happy with that. I know it makes no sense, and you want to just make sure you get through the heats and save as much energy as possible for the future rounds. But for me, I didn't have any expectation of even really getting out of the heat going down there. So yeah, I'm getting through the semi-final, having a good run was really good, and I was happy with that. So started to feel a little bit tight after that race. I think the wait time was around about an hour and a half to an hour and 40 minutes, maybe a bit less, or until the semi-final that I was going to be in. The type of race it is, with I think there was 90 bends and turns per race, so you can imagine after that amount of time your legs don't feel too great. But I did what I could, kind of tried to relax a bit, and then done another warm-up ahead of the next race, which was the first semi-final. So yeah, let's jump in and have a look at how that went. So an even more frantic start in the semi-final, with everyone jostling for the starting positions on the first lap. This race was always going to be more competitive, and it was busier, I think, as well than the first heat, so it made those twists and turns tricky to navigate to try and gain further places up the field in the race. So throughout the semi-final I tried to hold around about mid-pack and stay with the pace of the race, and just try and make sure that towards the end I could try and pick up to get any sort of qualifying spot, whether that be in the top 6 or by qualifying times. It became quite obvious to me probably around about this stage that wasn't going to happen. I was sitting around about 9th position, and I was struggling to keep a hold of the runner in front, but I just decided to keep pushing on and see how I would finish in terms of time. You can see the gap with the runner in front opening up a bit here, so I've got a bit of space, but also behind as well, which I was unaware of, but I just decided to keep pushing through and see how I would finish, and I think I came through 2 seconds slower than my heat time on this semi-final. That was very hard work to be able to do that, and I ended up crashing down at the end. So the plan for the semi-final was, if possible at all, to try and finish in the top 6. In the 2 semi-finals, the top 6 went through automatically, and then it was the 3 fastest times after that. I was in semi-final 1, which was the faster of the 2, and I finished in 9th place, which straight away I just basically writ off any chance of making it to the final. By this point my legs and body was battered, wasn't really able to handle it that well, so the plan was to hang around for 10-15 minutes, see a bit of the next race, and then just head off, get some food, given it had been such a long day. Very quickly my brother noticed that the times in the 2nd semi-final weren't going to be as fast as semi-final 1, and I think my time actually would have won the 2nd semi-final, so I ended up qualifying with the last slot based on times. So in one way I was happy, because I didn't expect to be able to do that, and I thought I would be out in the first heat, but on the other hand my body was saying no, and you probably shouldn't be doing this. But it was cool, so let's jump in and have a look at how the final went. So on to the final. This one for me was all about just taking part. To be after quite a few injuries earlier in the year, I didn't want to risk doing any further damage and preventing any future racing. So yeah, plan on this one was to hang at the back of the pack and basically just make sure that I got through the race in a respectable time. You can see from the footage I'd managed to overtake one of the runners, which was nice. I wasn't expecting that. I thought I was going to be dead last in the final, but naturally when you get into that type of environment, the competitive instincts kick in a little bit. So as you can see here, starting to pull some sort of sneaky manoeuvres on the corners to try and get in ahead of some of the runners. The final itself was, I think, a good couple of hours after the first heat, which is not something I'm used to at all. Something that I would need to prepare for future events, but a good learning experience. At this stage I was hopeful of catching the runner in front, and with one lap to go started to put a bit of an effort in to close that gap and make sure that I was close enough. And I think one of the photographer's cameras went down at that bend there, but yeah, managed to take another position and do a poor version of the RunWright sign on the final stretch before finishing off the final run. So as you can probably see from the lack of footage and from my positioning in that footage, my goal in the final basically was just to tag on the back. I didn't want to push anything too much and risk any injuries. I quite happily sat in sort of second last, third last place for majority of the race, and I think in the last lap or two I managed to get up to 10th. So with an overall finish of 10th place out of 15 in the final, I was absolutely delighted with how it went. Like I say, I'd originally expected to run the first heat and then just be part of watching the event, maybe have a few drinks and enjoy the atmosphere, but to be in right up until the last race was fantastic, and it was great being able to race with good quality runners as well. It's always a bonus. So that was it. A very different, very unique event, something I would highly recommend to anybody. It's not something that you see on the race calendar very much at all. As far as I'm aware, that's the only 2 races in Podium I've had them both. But definitely a good event to have, something that you can just focus on true racing rather than looking at your watch for paces, times, etc., or any sort of planning. You really just need to go into each race as it is and try your best to try and get a good place on the turns and try and see how you can get on. Hope you enjoyed having a little bit of insight into how that went. It's my first proper experience of doing a bit of travel for a race event, which I really enjoyed, so hopefully much more of that to come. I've got a couple of races planned coming up, so I'll hopefully get some footage of them as well, pull together a couple of videos and share them on this YouTube channel, so keep an eye out for that. And as always, if you can share this with any of your friends, running buddies, it's hugely appreciated. So thanks for watching and see you all soon.